you could say this game is exactly the opposite of Skyrim. In Skyrim, you have excellent top-notch gameplay and really mediocre RPG elements as far as the story goes. You have a beautiful setting, exploration that really makes you feel like an adventurer, you could say. In this game you have 180% the opposite. A very good, occasionally great storyline. Accompanied by the worst gameplay I've ever experienced in life, which apparently it was the standard of MMOs at the beginning of the 21st century, which is something to say for a game that's released in the second decade of the 21st century. And it it's that's compounded, you could say, with the fact that the game was not making money. As an MMO, it needs to make money constantly. And that made the developers start nerfing the experience for people like me. Uh, that just want the storyline and don't really care much about PvP or guilds, alliances, whatever you want to call them. I just want to experience what Daniel Erickson said this game was. KOTOR 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it turns out what it is a cash grab pushed by the fucking suits in EA. I'm sure that the good doctors would never have allowed the reputation of BioWare to be dragged in the mud and thrown into a cesspit just because they had a deadline, and so they copy pasted the gameplay of the most successful MMO until that time. A gameplay that goes against the trends of our times, if you really think about games and trends that BioWare has recognized in the past, which is basically more action-based gameplay. When you see the transition from DAO to DA2, it is very apparent what was their intention. It's to make you feel more involved in the combat, not just watching a chess match where you position your pieces and move them very rationally, very consciously, with a grand plan in your mind. No, you react with your instinct, and it is fast paced, it is aggressive. This thing is completely the opposite. You have momentum because the storyline demands it. And what do they accomplish with their gameplay? To constantly break that momentum. You want to go here? Ah, but first you have 3 snipers here, 5 droids there, 7 fucking Mandalorian raiders hiding behind the snow. And you really, except for Hoth, you really can't avoid the the area of influence of those mobs. And if you try, you end up in a worse situation, which is attracting several of them and getting ganged banged in the grass and left raped and sad to be teleported to a medical base that's who knows where and forces you to once again face those motherfuckers and even more possibly the ones you actually defeated in order to get back to the place the storyline demands. And that's just really stupid. And I don't know if the play testers were MMO veterans or who they actually had making the points out the quality of the gameplay, but whomever came up with the gameplay for this game and actually gave the okay to build the whole system based on this repetitive, annoying, bland, and completely useless click and click and click and click and click, rinse and repeat approach deserve to be fired when they started downsizing this thing. They are fucking idiots, complete morons that should be cleansing the streets uh, with the rest of the trash that they are going to send into the dustbin of history. That's really a truth. They betrayed the people that came up with the storylines. They stabbed them in the back. They made them work tirelessly to come up with interesting ways to approach Star Wars with innovative gameplay, such as the group dialogue, which is really nice. I experienced it in the beta with very good choices for your characters. A morality system actually based on the you could say the code of the Jedi, where dark side and light side are not always what appears. Those guys were geniuses. Those guys deserve awards and praise and to be put in charge next time. The other the other ones need to be lined up and kicked in the balls until they accept responsibility for this fucking mess. And that's what makes this game really frustrating. Because, for example, in Skyrim, or in any, for that game, for that reason, in any other game, it is the gameplay that you experience the most. It is your basic interaction with the environment. Therefore, that needs to be fun. Otherwise, the whole experience is going to be like being a slave, where you get a few hours of sleep, 3 meals a day, and maybe Sundays to go to church. But the rest of the time, Your master is whipping your ass, torturing you day and night. The tasks you need to perform because he wishes them perform, not because you want to do them. And that's exactly what this game does. It makes you a slave of the gameplay. While they'll dangle the storyline as the proverbial, what was it in Portal? There is no, what was it? Pie? Or cake? There is no cake, whatever it was. It is the same here with the storyline. It's always dangling in front of you while they force you to go through the motions of the gameplay. In Skyrim, it's the opposite. The gameplay is the main driver, and the storyline is just there to give a semblance of coherence to a whole enterprise. But they don't force you to experience the storyline. You can do whatever the fuck you want. If you don't care about the civil war, well, you go into a dungeon. If you care about the civil war, well, then you choose your side and stick with it, whatever else your character might want to do. Or you abandon it in the middle. Here, you cannot get away from the game. It's a fucking game. Which is something even a primary school child could tell you. So, what was their grand plan when the subscribers started pouring out of this piece of shit? They decided to open up the floodgates to everyone, but make the the leveling up experience much more difficult for the new arrivals that didn't spend money. And I think this is for me, it is a very bad decision because I don't want to go into PvP or any other MMO part of the game. But it is a very intelligent decision. I think the only one they've made gameplay in the gameplay arena because it really forces you to go and try to find a group or experience the other parts of the game in order to make a slugging match that is advancing the storyline much easier. If I didn't hate MMOs and if I didn't start playing this to find out as an F2P you could actually advance the story until the very end, I would just start to go to flashpoints, for example, and gain experience there and level up a few times. I'm sure I could have done that, or join some PvP raid or whatever it is called. I have no idea. Go to Hotball. They provide a lot of avenues for you to level up in the context of an MMO experience as opposed to a single player RPG experience. So as I said in the previous video, uh, you could just abandon the storyline and start focusing on flashpoints. And when you're level 39, you come back and kill this fucking asshole that uses force powers better than Yoda could ever do. And that's it. That synergy they create by forcing you to gain experience at a lower level to get gear that is pretty shitty compared to what you should be using at these planets, high level planets, by creating and make it very clear that some quests are heroic and demand you team up with other people. With all that, they are actually, I think, uh, making someone that's on the fence about the, the, the game, the gameplay, actually experience the holistic approach they take to this MMO. But I don't want that whole approach. I want the partial, limited, single player RPG that they said this could be, which obviously is not the case. And that's the reason the series is ending here. I I actually, when they announced the the transition to free to play and that races were going to get restricted and all other bullshit, I created characters for every class as I saw them in my mind, and I actually came up with RP rule sets for every one of them. But those characters will remain unused because unless in a few years I don't have anything to do, and I find myself with the choice of not playing anything or coming back to this. I actually put a lot of thought on these characters. But you need to want to play a game. A game is supposed to be fun. And uh, they, as I said, in their pursuit of forcing free to play gamers to experience group content, made a single player game a chore. So your choices would be, fuck it, I'm going to stop playing the game, which vacates their servers, or fuck it, I need to team up in order to beat this, which would strengthen their community, so they win either way. And in my particular case, the first option is only one that makes sense. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time when we will tackle LA Noir in an Iron Man playthrough. Till then, long live the Empire. Goodbye.